Has it started?
Yeah.
So, this is the title of my documentary, which is What is the Effect of the Advancement of Technology on Today's Communication? So, who am I working for? What am I required to produce? The client I've chosen is the UK Film Festival. Selected filmmakers will be competing for the UK Film Festival Edgware Awards in the categories of Best Short Film, Best Feature Film, Best Feature Documentary, lots of different things. And the winners will be announced at the end of the festival screenings. I've also chosen this competition because it's local to me and because the winning productions are at a really high standard, so I felt more challenged to push my production to be better. The different deadlines I will be working towards are an interim deadline of the 10th of May, a final deadline of the 22nd of May, and the film festival deadline, which is the 2nd of July 2019. There's no real requirements for this, other than it has to be under 40 minutes, and it also has different guidelines like no drug use, nudity or swearing, which I don't plan to use in my production whatsoever, so that works well. Target audience. So, my target audience is 16 plus, because I think my documentary will appeal to both a younger and an older age range. This is because there are two different elements of my documentary. One perspective that will lead my documentary is the evolution of communication through technology, and the second element is the effect on the children of today. I believe it will appeal to a younger audience because it could be interesting to know what a world their parents grew up in and factual evidence of the effects of the advancement of technology on this current generation, and posing an ultimate question to the viewer that if they are more conscious of the effects of that social media has, will it alter the way they use it, make more of an effort to not let technology take over their life. I think it will appeal to parents too, because they can see dangers that their kids will be encountering, such as online grooming, cyberbullying, or even scams, and see a clear age gap between their generation and their children's. This should be interesting as I want to include interviews with people of all age ranges, 16 plus, so the parents can see a more wide and varied view of the social media debate. When it came to deciding where I would target my production, I looked for inspiration from films which are technologically based. Jobs is a Steve Jobs film, which is rated a PG, so is The Social Network. But also, from a documentary and informative side, I've chosen to make it 16 plus. Stacey Dooley states her videos are based at a youth audience, and so is my production, as an element of mine is that I want to educate young people on the potential dangers social media has on their life, and to really make them think about themselves and how much they personally use social media every day. I want my audience to put themselves in the realistic shoes of understanding that there was once a world without technology, and still, in today's world, there are people who do live without technology. To the average teenager in today's world, this is absurd. When I was in Paris, I attended a conference called Media Live, where a speaker, Lucy Brett, from the BBFC, spoke about the importance of target audience and its effect on the film. An award-winning film that I've seen is The Hunger Games. The film needed the BBFC to pass this film as a 12A so that the target audience would be larger than before to make more money in cinemas. The first submission passed it at 15, so the producers deleted some scenes in order to pass it at a younger audience. This made me realise how truly important it is to think about target audience when planning a production. Idea. What is my idea? How did this come around? So after sending out some surveys and doing a few focus groups, I've decided to do a documentary about how the technological advancement has affected today's communication style, and to ultimately pose a question to the audience of, has the technological shift caused more harm than good? Today, through social media, we are all exposed to risks such as cyberbullying, radicalisation or online grooming. These are all dangers that previous generations never had to encounter because they simply couldn't. I want to explore all of the positives and negatives that the advancement has had on today's generation. and the potential impacts it could have to future generations. I plan to interview David Johnson, who was on the first Skype team, members of the public to see what their views are, as well as including some other professional interviews. I want to primarily focus on using members of the public, as I feel that this will be the most relatable for the audience. Locations. So I'm going to be filming on Marlow High Street and Reading High Street, the public interviews, because these are both very close and local to me, so they're very, very accessible, seeing as I don't have a car anymore. And it's also, they're both close to my college, and the people who would be helping me film, it'll be easy for them to get to as well, so it's just convenient. And I want to film a lot of B-roll at the Science Museum because they have 4 different exhibitions that are really relevant to my documentary. So there's one which is Tomorrow's World, which is all about futuristic technology. The Information Age, so that's the development of communication really, Making of the Modern World, and The Secret Life of the Home. So that's just lots of different things that I hope to film at. I think I'll get some good B-roll there. Productions mine will be similar to. We can watch it.
That's not good.
Yeah, don't, yeah. Well, if you want to have a look on there, then yeah. So I hope to produce a production similar to one like this. I like the relevance of all the visuals, and this is something.
What it is.
It's literally it's a documentary about technology, and communication, but just primarily the effect on education, as opposed to I want to do mine as like a whole. I like the relevance of all the visuals, and this is something I hope to implement into my production. Something I also liked about this was the balance between interviews and archive footage. I liked this because it gave the audience a chance to hear facts whilst also being able to see opinions and effect on teens. My production will be different, as I want mine to be more focused on effects of everyday life rather than just education. It's also good because it has a balance of pros and cons, so it's subjective. This is something I want to implement into my production. And in terms of narrative structure, I want to do just a basic beginning, middle, end. The beginning, just an introduction, what my documentary is going to be focused on, what it's going to be about. Middle will be interviews, pros and cons, the history of communication, really, how it all began. And then ending with just posing questions to the audience. I want the audience to really think about their personal technology use after they finish watching it, because gone are the days of climbing trees, and today's the day of Alexa, isn't it? So, yeah, and anyone got any questions? Questions?
Go on, Olivia.
Have you faced any problems?
Well, actually, do you know what, Olivia? I have faced some problems. A problem that the biggest problem I faced was I couldn't really decide what to do my idea actually on, like as a focus. I knew I wanted to do it about something technology based because I've got resources for that. But I think something I didn't really think about is coming up with a question and then basing my documentary on the question. I was going to do it on Skype, but then you've got to do a 10 to 20 minute documentary, and it can be really dull just listening about Skype and Skype and Skype. So a lot of my documentary, I hope to make it rhetorical questions. Like, I want the audience to be constantly thinking and asking themselves questions throughout. That's a problem I faced. Another problem I faced was, before I knew about the Science Museum exhibitions, I didn't really know what I was going to do about B-roll, because we can only use 10% archive footage. So that was something, because I mean, there's only so much B-roll you can get of just people answering the phone and stuff, and I really wanted to make my visuals relevant to my narration, so that was something that really is going to pull me up, I think, and really help me out with this production. Yeah, any other questions?
What mode of documentary are you going for?
Mode of documentary, so I'm thinking of doing a reflexive documentary similar to Louis Theroux's and Stacey Dooley. I think this will be good because with a reflexive documentary you must interact with the interviewees, and this is something I feel I'm going to be good at, as I feel like I can really talk to members of the public and encourage them to talk more when interviewing them, using some interview skills that I've looked at. Yeah.
Seeing as it's that type of documentary, are you going to reflect on the idea that technology is taking over the world?
Oh yeah, 100%. I will be reflecting on that, and it's actually something I really disagree with. From previous events, I've learnt that I don't even like having an iPhone. I like having a phone with no social media on it that I can literally just make a phone call on, whereas 99% of people I go to school with couldn't live without their iPhone, whereas I like be living in the moment and verbally just communicating as opposed to communicating primarily through an iPhone and text messaging and whatnot. So I think that's something that really inspired me to do this topic on my documentary. Any other questions? Thank you.